Hello, and welcome to the Kathleen Spracklin podcast. I am a woman on a mission to gather a cadre of writers, thinkers, and teachers who are transforming the world one character at a time. And it all comes down to one thing: a deep understanding of human motivation, why people do what they do, and the forces that drive them. Well, today I'm at one of those fun intersections of my theme of study and the Zettelkasten. And I wanted to share a card that was just brought up some interesting questions for the Zettelkasten and for the difference between titles and taglines, and why I think it's so important to have a tagline on a card that functions as a memory prompt phrase to bring back the whole card, and the reason why I don't like dead titles. And both come together in a card that in and of itself is rather interesting. So you won't be trying to just read the card. I'll tell you about it. And then we'll look at the Zettelkasten for the Zettelkasten components. Well, the card came from the book Flourish by Martin Seligman. And Martin Seligman is very much into positive psychology, which is also very much related to the character traits, because the character traits fall on a continuum from positive to negative. And so positive psychology is part of that continuum. It's the part that is more desirable. And it also gives you some insights, because if you can see the desirable, you can flip it to the less desirable, because fiction writers need the whole gamut. We need to be able to deal with the full range. Well, he has a remark in here where it's describing pretty much the point where he's beginning to switch over from just being a traditional therapist to being interested in positive psychology. And I put a quote on the bib card that's a lot of fun. I didn't put the quote on the main card. I paraphrased it because I think that's oftentimes more valuable for retention. But since I'm sharing it with you, I'll go ahead and read the whole quote because it's rather interesting. He said, "As a therapist, once in a while, I would help a patient get rid of all of his anger and anxiety and sadness. I thought I would then get a happy patient, but I never did. I got an empty patient." What a thought. Well, my reaction to that on the main card that I made was, well, if you're trying to get rid of sadness, sadness is an effect. It comes out of the lost state of a struggle. And in point of fact, anger, just to pick one of them, is a lost state of no fewer than 7 of the 28 character traits. So if you seem to me that if you just get rid of anger, now he doesn't go into details, so I'm not going to presume that that's what really happened in the therapy, but one way of getting rid of anger would be to repress it. Well, if you're just repressing the anger, that could lead to an empty patient. Or if you just learn to condition, I guess, which would be another form of repression, that nope, not going to permit anger. Nope. And you don't deal with what was causing the anger, then you're going to be stuck in that same state of emptiness. Seligman goes on to say that, well, we need to talk about the positive emotions, not just eliminating the negative emotions, but that feels to me a little bit like gluing something on over the top of the other one and kind of hoping that the other one will hide behind it. To me, at least in fictional characters, I don't know about psychotherapy, that's beyond my skill, but when you're sketching a character in a story, just to say that he suddenly got rid of his sadness isn't going to connect with your reader. You kind of need to understand, why did he get rid of his sadness? Why did he get rid of his anxiety? Why did he get rid of his anger? You need to give some motivational reason for what caused those things to go away. And I maintain that that means that he got a handle on the struggle that was producing those emotions. Well, that's just the backstory. The fun part from the Zettelkasten standpoint is what happened when I went to file the card and what I saw in my system. And for that, we're going to need the down-facing camera. So let's head on over there. Okay, so here's the card that I made where I paraphrased what Seligman said. Other than I got an empty patient. I thought that was too great. I had to include that in quote form. And I responded to it as I described to you. And initially I came up with the tagline that said, negative emotions cannot be solved as the target. But I felt that that would not really bring back the whole card because it didn't use enough terminology from the card. So I ended up not using that one. In fact, I'll probably white out those 2 bars because that's what signals the tagline for me. And I decided I would rather use this one. Eliminate negative emotions leads to an empty patient. And I think that carries it more. Okay, so that was one point, coming up with a tagline that's definitely going to bring the full card back to memory. So then I went to try to file it. As is my practice, I jotted down some candidates on the back side of the card. And the first one that I came to, candidate alternate explanations. Well, that looks like a dead title card to me. Then this one was a complete thought. Here's another one, looked like a dead title to me. And then here's another complete thought. Well, my plan has been to clean up one of the dead titles a day at most. I felt that this one was probably the most likely, so I pulled that card and come to find out it wasn't a dead title card. It was the main card and not a very good tagline. So I had 2 different tries at a tagline on this card. One was that just called the functional categories of struggle, and another one that was just universal struggles of man. And that's what gave me my thing called universal struggles. So all I really needed to do with this one was clean up the tagline and say the universal struggles of man fall into 4 functional categories, because that's going to bring back the whole card, because the 4 functional categories are included as part of the card. So for this exercise, it only needed to go back and re-index this tagline so that it can interact with other cards in the system. Now, what about the other one? The other one was really intriguing to me. Candidate alternative explanations. And it's right in 4E, which is right in an area where most of the cards have to do with this very concept of emotions and struggle. So I thought, wow, let's take a look at the cards that come under 4E and see if we can do a better job than this kind of a dead title. And when I went to look up 4E, there was no such thing as 4E in my Zettelkasten. There was no title card. There was no main card. There was nothing at all. The last card in the 4s was 4D6A. I didn't have a single thing that was 4E. And that was very frustrating to me because, man, I'd like to know what I was thinking when I wrote that into it had to be on something because it made it into my index. I'd sure love to run into that one because I don't know what I was thinking. So this to me is the Zettelkasten idea that we really want to have a quality title, a quality tagline, so that we can remember what the card said and so that we can use it to interact with other ideas in the Zettelkasten. So that one dead-ended. This one got cleaned up, but after being cleaned up, the 4D6 was still the better parent. And 4D6 is the theory of character traits is the struggle. The struggle is the key thing, and what it gives rise to is the structure behind the character traits, which turns out to be the taxonomy of the character traits. So this one, because of its tie into the struggle, was my best match. However, this is already a busy conversation with some interesting topics that go along with it. So my new card added to the conversation and became 4D6D. So I hope you enjoyed that little opportunity to take a look at why is it that I say that you need to have a phrase that will really function as a memory prompt phrase. That tagline is super important. It enables your index entries to interact with new cards. It saves you time in figuring out where the new card belongs. It keeps both halves of your mind working at the same time because your associative brain needs full ideas to work with because it does not organize itself by words. And since it does not organize itself by words, just throwing individual words at it, unless you've really conditioned those words, they don't function to get the associative mind excited. And you want the associative brain, your associative mind excited because that's how you get into the flow state. So that is why you really, 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 really want to have a quality functioning tagline. And I still want to know what was meant by candidate alternative explanations. Of what? And what were the candidates? Darn. I hope I stumble on that card in heaven knows where. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.